Well, not only investing in real estate it's not the only way you can move up, consolidating properties. I think it's an interesting idea. A lot of people are out there, they've bought condos, they've bought single family residences. Just the lesser amount of management it would take is certainly, it's kind of appealing. If I owned a whole bunch of properties, maybe I would do that.
One roof, I like it.
One roof, so perfect. I like the one over my head right now. Ryan Leopold is back with us, and, people are looking to move up. And by move up, we're really talking about buying a bigger home. Maybe you've had kids or, you just need something more. And it's pretty critical to have some certain types of mortgage strategies going on. Welcome back, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
It is, it's good. I'm amazed that I've been able to stand this long after doing that Warrior Dash.
I saw your knees. I'm really impressed. My goodness.
Yeah. You should do it some next year, man. We'll get you up there.
Yeah, put me on the list.
Done. All right. So let's get into, the mortgage strategies right now for any purchase are big, but when you're actually trying to buy a bigger home or sell potentially the one you bought 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, different strategies now.
Yeah, and I think it's tougher, and I think a lot of people need to take a step back and realize that they kind of have to exhaust all their options to create what you always talk about on the show is an efficient plan to help them achieve their goals and objectives. So I think people who are selling houses looking to buy their next home, now more than ever, I think really requires a plan and a strategy, no question.
Yeah, well, as Janine was saying, everybody has financial limitations and emotional limitations. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that stress or the limitations comes from the mortgage side. Tell us a little bit of some ways that you've been helping people finance that next home.
Yeah, well, maybe we can start with the easiest way, and we'll kind of work our way down the list, because that's usually how we start with somebody. The easiest way to do it in an ideal world is someone could go out, decide they're going to buy, they go and find the home they love, they've already met with a mortgage professional to realize they can qualify for both payments. They can qualify the home they currently have and the home they want to buy. So that makes it really easy.
Not only qualify, but afford it.
Yeah, afford it and qualify. I mean, there's some intangibles in there too, but it's also easy just to know that you can find this perfect house, know it's going to close in 30 days, pack up your stuff, move it to the new house, clean the old house, and put it on the market knowing if it's priced right and if it's been consulted on ahead of time with a professional on the real estate side, it's going to sell within a reasonable period of time. That's by far the easiest way to do it, but so few people can actually qualify for both payments.
Most expensive. Funny how the easiest things are sometimes the most expensive, right?
It is. I mean, there's strategy behind it, too, because a lot of times when you buy your new home, you're not going to have your first mortgage payment for 45 to 60 days. So, in this kind of market, if your home's going to sell and maybe close in 30 to 45 days, then you may not have that overlap that a lot of people, I think, are concerned about. But it's definitely something you have to be prepared for. You may have a couple months of overlapping payments. So you have to qualify from a mortgage payment standpoint and a down payment standpoint. So I'd say that's probably the easiest way to do it. It doesn't happen that often.
No, I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some other ways that maybe people who don't have that much money to just, not sell their house, take their time? The down payment could be a difficult process. What are some ways that other people can buy their next home?
So let's just assume for a second, kind of off number one. Number two is they can qualify for the second home. They just don't have the down payment yet because all their equity is trapped in their current home. Okay, so you can still do bridge loan type financing where you can borrow some of the equity from your current home and use it as a down payment on your new home, and again, make that easy conversion. So I think it's really understanding which strategy you can qualify for and then exhausting all options. So that's a potential strategy. Another potential strategy for some people who may want to be a renter or may want to be a landlord is they can actually look to rent out their current home, have the rent offset some of the liability, use some equity and saving in their current house or some money they have saved to buy or use the down payment for their new home. But again, there are a lot of limitations that have changed over the last 3 to 4 years where it's not as easy as to turn your current home into a rental like it was 5 years ago. And that probably limits a lot of people too, because you have to have at least 30% equity, X amount in the bank after close, and you can't just use that rental payment to offset the liability every time.
Yeah, it's much more strict. Like you said, you don't just get a lease and go, yep, here's how much I make on my lease now. I mean, there's a lot of proof that goes into it now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, again, I think just knowing that strategy exists, and for some people, they want to execute that strategy but you have to sit with a mortgage lender and make sure you have your financing in place for both. Turning your home into a rental, making sure it works, and then how are you going to finance that new home and what's the best strategy to do so?
Do you think that a lot of people know that the options are out there? I mean, it seems that there's so much negativity around surrounding mortgages. People are, well, I would never be able to do it. Yet at the same time, rates are the lowest they've ever been. Home prices are still depressed from where they were 4 or 5 years ago. A lot of it is just shedding a little bit of light on the fact that, hey, it can be done if you're willing to do it.
Yeah, I'd say probably 85 to 90% of the buyers that we work with and we meet with who are looking to kind of transition from their current home to the next home, A, don't have a plan, and B, they can't necessarily qualify for the top 3 options. So then they kind of have to progress into option number 4, but they want to exhaust all options on 1 through 3, and then if that just doesn't work, then we have to go to number 4, which is not ideal, but it's kind of what you have to do in this market, which is, hey, I got to sell my current home before I can qualify and or buy the next home I want to buy.
And I mean, these are all it's the financial constraints that we're talking about. Of course, if you had unlimited money, then you could just go buy both houses, right? And you wouldn't have any loans. But most people are leveraging and most people are using mortgages to buy houses. So these are strategies essentially mortgage strategies to buy those houses. Yeah.
And I think the biggest challenge in today's market is, so you have a market where we just had a client a couple of days ago where they're in downtown Kirkland. They know their home is going to sell fast because there's huge demand for that property. They're like, that's great. That's good to know that. But the challenge is the home we want to buy is also in Kirkland. It's in this price range, which is also hard to find homes that you can actually transition over to. So they're really stuck in this tough position of, okay, I put my house in the market. I know it's going to sell in 30 days. But what if I don't find a home in 30 days? So I think they really, and part of what we need to do on the mortgage side is talk through those options. And the reality could be that contingencies is not an easy way to buy homes these days. Sellers really aren't keen on that. So maybe you have to be prepared to have some kind of temporary living from the time that you sell your home to maybe the 2 to 6 months it takes for you to find that home that you want to buy. And again, I think it comes down to exhausting those options and realizing which strategy and which option is going to be best for you and your family. But the only way you can get there is if you exhaust the options and talk to a professional who kind of knows your situation and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that's true, especially when you think about the different restrictions that have come along, because just because somebody did it 6 years ago, rules have totally changed.
They have, and I think a lot of people can't quite understand these restrictions. And quite frankly, a lot of lenders don't know the restrictions either, which makes it even more challenging. So it's being very specific on everyone's unique situation to help them, like we always talk about, understand where you are, understand where you want to be. And a good mortgage professional's job is to help them get from A to B the most efficient and profitable way possible for them and their family.
Yeah. Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head too. Is that transition, because that's really what you're kind of trying to finance. You're trying to finance that 30 or 60 or 90 days going from one house to the other. And I mean, like you said, temporarily. It may be living in a hotel or at your in-laws but these are all these different ways of surviving or having one roof over your head that are possible. But you have to, I guess it's hard to sometimes think about those when you're in the moment.
And you just really, and it's tough. I think you just need to know what those options are because you know where you want to get to. You know you want this new house. You've already seen houses come on the market and sell in a couple of days, so you know it's going to be a challenge. And if you just can't qualify for options 1, 2, or 3, you just got to be prepared. If you want to go to the next step, that's what it's going to take. And that's what a good consultation is going to get you through, so that way you can leave that meeting, know that money is in place for the new home you're going to buy, and then go back and discuss with your family how you want to handle that transition.
The transition also, even if you go buy a house, and we hit on this last week a little bit, but there's the costs that aren't always part of the loan or part of the mortgage or part of buying the house when it comes to moving or these transition costs. And I think a good, when you're speaking with a lender, it's not just about the down payment and your costs. It's also, okay, well, you're going to need some other money for other things as you do this to make this a successful purchase and feel good about it.
Well, no, from my standpoint, I've moved several homes, move from several different homes, and you think, okay, is it just the down payment, the closing costs, and the cost to move? But you just bought a new house that has no window coverings, or your couch doesn't fit, or whatever is going to happen. You're going to really need to plan for the added costs that you weren't expecting otherwise.
Well, it is good information as you start to move up to a bigger home, sometimes more expensive, and understanding where your money is going to be and how you can hang on to a little bit more is key information. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. Hey, we're going to bring everybody back to the mic when we come back after this break. You're listening to Brashenomics.